The Young and the Restless, Sharon and Phyllis kidnapped and the secret behind the attack. After a long and tense time, Sharon and Phyllis are finally rescued from their captors, but their health is extremely worrying. Phyllis is so exhausted that her body can no longer endure and she can faint at any moment. Sharon, meanwhile, is no better, as she is so exhausted that she can barely utter a word. However, both of them still have something very important that they need to know right now. Who is behind this kidnapping? While Sharon and Phyllis are in a state of near death, Chancellor is trying to find clues about the culprit. He knows that what they are experiencing is not just a normal kidnapping, but very likely a much more complex plot. But to solve this mystery, Chance needs help from those closest to Sharon and Phyllis. And none other than Nick Newman, Billy Abbott, and Chance himself will have to step up and face the difficult challenges ahead. Nick and Billy, companions in the search for the truth when all hope is almost lost, Nick and Billy decide they can't sit still. The two rush to a special clinic, where they hope to find clues about who is behind this kidnapping. Billy, always a quick thinker and decisive, asks right away, "What's the plan when we get there?" Nick, somewhat worried but still determined, replies, "Chance won't like this, but I think we have to do it." "But I don't understand. Why would a psychopath kidnap Phyllis and Sharon? Why them, and not someone else?" Nick's words make Billy start to doubt and wonder more about the reason behind this kidnapping. Although everything is still unclear, they know that there is a hidden truth that they need to uncover. Chance and the difficult questions. When Nick and Billy arrive at the Havenhurst facility, where Sharon and Phyllis are being held, Chance is already there and is investigating. However, the appearance of Nick and Billy is not what Chance expected. He looks at them suspiciously and asks, "What are you doing here? You know that this is an important investigation and not everyone can access it." Nick replies with a determined look, "We cannot sit idly by while Sharon and Phyllis are in danger. We need to know who is behind this kidnapping and why they are targeting them." Meanwhile, Billy begins to observe the surrounding facility and realizes that this place is more than just a detention center. There is something bigger, more complicated behind it all. "We need to know more about this, Chance," he says. "Who is behind it all, and do these actions involve anyone in our family?" Tracy, a quiet concern while Nick, Billy, and Chance are trying to figure out the truth. Another person who is equally concerned is Tracy Abbott, who is worried about her beloved sister. Tracy knows that Sharon and Phyllis's health will not last long without timely care, and on top of that, she also fears that Sharon and Phyllis's kidnapping may be part of a larger conspiracy, possibly involving the Abbott family. Tracy quietly contacts Chance and other allies, to protect her family and find out who is behind it all. She wants not only to protect Tracy, but also to prove that the Abbott family will never let itself be overwhelmed by anyone. The search for truth, planning the next steps. The hearts of everyone involved have begun to beat faster, as they know that time is ticking. Sharon and Phyllis's health may not last long without timely treatment. However, they cannot ignore the bigger goal, finding the culprit and the real reason behind this kidnapping. Nick, Billy, and Chance will have to work together to solve all the problems. With each step, they will discover terrifying conspiracies, long-hidden secrets, and possibly even internal struggles within their own family. Meanwhile, Tracy will not give up. She will continue to fight to protect her loved ones, regardless of the danger. But among all these big questions, there is still one very important thing: who is really behind this kidnapping, and what are they plotting with Sharon and Phyllis? Answers will come, but before everything is cleared up, tension will continue to rise, pushing each character into unpredictable, tense situations. The Young and the Restless, investigations, tough decisions, and a showdown as things get more complicated. The Young and the Restless builds tension between Nick, Billy, Chance, Sharon, and Phyllis. With unsolved mysteries and lurking dangers, the characters face tough decisions in their search for the truth. But can they overcome the challenges and find the culprit behind the kidnapping? Watch the dramatic investigation unfold below. Nick and Billy, no way out. On a tense morning, Nick and Billy wait outside the Havenhurst facility. Nick, impatient, looks at Chance and insists, "We're not going anywhere. We need to get in now." Billy, less patiently, quickly asks, "Why are we just standing there?" Why haven't we broken down yet? Both of them were already worried about Sharon and Phyllis, and the delay in the search was adding to the tension. However, Chance, who was leading the investigation, remained calm and insisted that everything would be done according to procedure. We'll wait for the warrant and the landlord to come. This whole thing could be a diversion or a trap. We'll follow police procedure, Chance said, making Nick and Billy even more uneasy. Chance's words made Nick even more nervous, so we just stand here and wait. Is this something that's out of our control? Finally, Chance received a text message saying that the warrant had been approved. The landlord of the premises appeared, but what they heard only made them more confused. This place has been out of business for years, he announced, making the tension even more intense. After trying the door with his key, the landlord finds that the lock has been tampered with. Someone changed the lock, he says, surprising the group. With no other choice, Chance decides to use any means necessary to open the door, and they finally make it inside the facility. Sharon and Phyllis, unexpected and determined. Meanwhile, somewhere in the facility, Sharon and Phyllis, despite being physically and mentally damaged, refuse to give up. Sharon, ever the resilient one, occasionally shows her lucid thinking in this dire situation. We just need to find a camera in a public place. That might lure our kidnapper, Sharon says, though she is weak and nearly out of breath. However, Phyllis, always known for her strong and decisive personality, is not willing to just wait. We should do something more drastic, she advises. Let's destroy this place. If we don't do this, the kidnapper will never show himself. Sharon, despite her exhaustion, decided to continue her actions. She began to sweep everything off the coffee table, and then shouted, "What are you waiting for?" The two women continued to smash the room in a frenzy, expressing their anger and desperation in this dangerous situation. At this moment, their screams rang out as a challenge to those who were watching them: Ian, Jordan. The two names they thought were behind it all. Sharon and Phyllis, in their madness, continued to resist and smash everything around them. The tension in the room grew more and more, as loud noises came from their destruction. After a long while, when everything in the room was destroyed, Sharon felt a surge of emotion in her heart. She turned to look at Phyllis, her face full of guilt. "I'm sorry for what I've done to you and your family." Phyllis, though a little surprised, immediately replied firmly, "Sharon, you don't have to do that. You're not responsible for what happened. We're all victims in this situation." Phyllis tried to soothe Sharon, not wanting her to feel any more guilty. End of an episode, beginning of a mystery. Everything was coming to an end, but one big question remained unanswered: who was behind this kidnapping? Why did they choose Sharon and Phyllis as their targets? While Nick, Billy, and Chance were trying to uncover the truth, Sharon and Phyllis were overturning everything in their power to attract the kidnapper's attention. The sense of unease and the uncertainty about who is behind this case only add to the complexity of the investigation. The remaining people, especially Tracy, will face a difficult decision: how to save Sharon and Phyllis without falling into the trap of the villain. This story is not over. A tense investigation, risky decisions, and surprising revelations are still ahead. The characters will never give up until the truth is revealed, and Sharon and Phyllis's lives are saved. The Young and the Restless. Sharon and Phyllis face the turn of events in The Young and the Restless. Sharon and Phyllis have gone through dark times, but they still persevere through a painful life in the kidnapper's cell. The days seem endless, where darkness and despair almost swallow them up. Life in the cell is no different from a real hell, with every passing minute like a battle for survival. Facing the cruel reality, Sharon and Phyllis, although two strong women, but the silence and loneliness in the confined space gradually make them face the painful truth: they only have each other. Their conversations in this cold room are not only words of comfort, but also a way for them to remind themselves of the reason why they continue to survive. Phyllis, who had always been strong and resilient, began to share the reasons why she could not give up. She talked about her children, whom she loved and wanted to protect. "I have to live to take care of them. I cannot let them grow up without me," Phyllis confided, her voice filled with pain and determination. Those words were not only the feelings of a mother, but also the survival of a woman who never gave up in the face of adversity. Sharon, meanwhile, was not lacking in determination. Me too. I have to raise my children. I promised them that I would always be there. Nothing can break that promise. She mentioned Nick, the man who had always been there for her in difficult times. Phyllis couldn't help but laugh when Sharon talked about Nick. He is special to you, isn't he? Phyllis asked, her eyes teasing but also full of sympathy. Sharon just smiled back, knowing deep down that what they were facing could be their last. Discovering the secret in the room though things seemed hopeless, Sharon and Phyllis did not give up. They continued to search every corner of the room, hoping to find anything that would help them escape. And then, like magic, they found a hidden camera. Sharon, unable to believe her eyes, joked to ease the tension, "This is a joke, right?" Phyllis smiled, her eyes showing a hint of humor in the dire situation. "You're so funny, Sharon," she said, although deep down they both knew they had just discovered something that could change everything. After a moment of silence, Sharon looked into the camera and asked, "So, what happens now?" Phyllis looked at Sharon and replied, her voice full of concern, "We can't see them, and they won't let us go easily. That's for sure. We have to prepare ourselves for a visit." She added to Sharon, her tone serious but not lacking in strength, "Be ready for whatever comes, even if we can't avoid it." The words were a warning, but both Sharon and Phyllis knew they couldn't give up. Every decision had to be weighed, but the situation was getting worse. They decided to look for anything that would help them protect themselves when their captors showed up. All hope seemed to be pinned on this possibility: if they couldn't escape, then at least they would have a chance to face their enemies. The trap is set suddenly, a notification appeared on a disposable phone that Sharon and Phyllis had found in the room. The message was short but haunting: "Unsportsmanlike ladies, you're lost." It was like a curse, a clear message of their defeat. Sharon, unable to accept this reality, immediately said, "This is not a riddle. This is a death sentence." The words were heavy, a confirmation of the fate they faced. Phyllis, though sensing danger, refused to be defeated. "We are bad people," she said, her voice filled with determination. "Everything we've done in our lives, we've done to survive." These were not the words of a woman facing death, but of a warrior, one who had overcome too much in her life to accept defeat. In that moment, Phyllis took Sharon's hand, as an affirmation that they would not give up. "We can do this," she said, knowing full well that they were facing a terrible challenge. Unbeknownst to them, their captor was watching them, and their confrontation with their enemy was only just beginning. As despair mounted, Sharon and Phyllis had no choice but to face reality. In that moment, they heard a screech, and soon, jazz music filled the silence of the cell. The music, not a gentle melody, but a strange, haunting jazz, like a call from hell. Sharon and Phyllis knew that, although they might not understand the full meaning of the music, it could signal the arrival of the kidnapper. Something terrible would happen soon. Both women, exhausted and nearly out of strength, stood up, refusing to let themselves fall. They had fought too long and too much to give up now. No matter what the kidnapper had prepared, Sharon and Phyllis would fight to the last breath. In the darkness of the cell, Sharon and Phyllis prepared for the final confrontation. Can they escape this nightmare, or will they become the final victims in a deadly game? Everything will gradually be revealed as they face the kidnapper and the truth behind this incident. Once again, Sharon and Phyllis's fight is not just to survive, but also to protect the people they love, to prove that even in the face of death, they will never surrender. In a tense and desperate episode of The Young and the Restless, Sharon and Phyllis must not only struggle with physical pain but also face an unpredictable danger from the kidnappers who have no mercy. Saved thanks to Tracy's insight and sophistication, these two women must fight for their lives while facing a threat that still lurks outside, not letting them go. Enduring asphyxiation while Sharon and Phyllis were trapped in a dark room where they could not escape, another danger slowly engulfed them. The gas inside the room began to emit, making it difficult for them to breathe, their strength gradually drained. The feeling of suffocation seemed to weigh down on them, while the space around them was filled with darkness and despair. Sharon began to panic, while Phyllis tried to stay calm. Both felt that they had little time left to think of a way out of this dangerous situation. While all hope seemed lost, Tracy, a determined and intelligent woman, discovered something that no one else had noticed: the source of the gas. With her sharp and quick thinking, Tracy shouted to help Sharon and Phyllis realize the situation. Not only did she find the source of the gas, but she also began to find a way to stop the poisonous gas from spreading throughout the room. But even though Tracy acted quickly, the situation was still extremely dangerous. Sharon and Phyllis were still uneasy, knowing that the danger from the gas could lead to a terrible explosion if not handled promptly. The three of them had no choice but to face this life-or-death battle together. As the doorknob began to shake, salvation from outside was almost here. Sharon, in extreme tension, stood near the door and raised her thermos, a makeshift weapon. She knew that the kidnapper could suddenly burst in at any moment. At that moment, a loud scream rang out from Sharon, as she recognized Nick's voice from outside. "Nick!" Sharon shouted, but before she could say anything more, Chance and the rescue team arrived immediately. Chance, not wanting to let the situation get any more tense, immediately ordered everyone, "Back off." Then, he quickly used his gun to break the lock to open the door. However, when Sharon quickly warned that there was a gas leak, which could lead to a major explosion, Nick could not wait any longer. He rushed over and used his strength to kick the door open. Both Billy and Nick rushed inside. Nick went to Sharon, while Billy went to Phyllis. "We're here, everything will be fine," Nick reassured Sharon. At the same time, Billy brought Phyllis out and also gently comforted her. But even though they were saved, Sharon and Phyllis could not breathe a sigh of relief. Everything was still too vague. Could they really escape these deadly traps? Big questions still hung over their heads. Once Sharon and Phyllis were out and safe, the group returned to the ranch to continue their investigation. However, Chance was once again faced with a heartbreaking reality. "Whoever did this covered their tracks," Chance said, his eyes filled with suspicion and tension. The ensuing investigation was a huge challenge for Sharon and Phyllis. Neither woman knew who was behind it, but one thing was certain: their kidnapper was no ordinary person. Phyllis told them about the tests they had been put through, and the terrifying truth that the kidnapper seemed to know a lot about them, about their lives, and about the deep secrets that only their closest friends and family knew. Phyllis couldn't hide her thoughts for a brief moment. "I think it was Nick." This statement stunned everyone. Nick couldn't possibly be behind it all, but why did Phyllis think so? Was there something they weren't aware of? Billy couldn't help but wonder about the riddles the kidnapper had sent them. In the end, all of those riddles only led to one goal: to save each other's lives, Sharon mused, as if trying to make sense of why they had been drawn into this game. The rats in the maze. Phyllis, her voice weary but determined, continued to think about what had happened. "We were like rats in a maze," she said. "Watched and controlled like animals in a game, for someone's amusement." She couldn't understand why she and Sharon had been drawn into this conspiracy. However, Billy quickly clarified something he had discovered during his investigation. He tells of a riddle the kidnapper had given him, which had led them to where they found Sharon and Phyllis. Chance, still without the answers to everything, advises the group to take a break. "It's over," he says, but Phyllis disagrees. "Not yet," Phyllis replies, her voice firm. "Even though we've escaped, the kidnappers are still out there. We have to find them before they strike again." The ending unfolds, and then, in a tense moment, Tracy decides to relieve some of the tension by pouring herself a glass of champagne. The events of the past few days have made her feel like a war has just begun, rather than ended. But as she enjoys her drink, a new notification pops up on Alan's phone. Tracy looks at the screen, confused by the strange message: "Security breach at the clinic. Precautions have been taken." The words sounded like a new warning. The end of this investigation may not be near, and dangers still lurk. Who will be next to face the kidnapper, and will Sharon and Phyllis truly escape from these enemies? The answer can only be a never-ending struggle, where nothing is over until the enemy is defeated.